Best Bets show presented by BetRivers. We're the three-man weave, and we could not be more excited to be here today to talk about college basketball. The season starts in just 1 week, 7 days to get your futures in there. We're talking futures bets, guys, today. We're talking national title, Final Four, Wooden Award, conference by conference odds for the Power Boys. We're even throwing in some mid-majors today. We're hitting all the futures. As always, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We'll talk about them throughout the show. Why not? Also, by the way, did you notice, Jim, our good friend Matthew is very spirited today, wearing a Halloween costume.
I didn't notice at all. It's really hard to tell.
Can you guess what he is?
No, I have no idea. Matt, what are you?
I'm Yoshi. Tough to tell from the camera angle coming like upward my nostrils right now, both my actual nostrils and my Yoshi nostrils. But yes, it is Yoshi. This is the 9th year in a row I will be adorning this costume on this fine holiday. Kai, it's your favorite holiday, correct?
It's not, but I do appreciate your little shtick here. You bought a costume
big Halloween
years ago, and you're the same character every single year for Halloween. Takes the guesswork out of it, takes the effort. It's fantastic, and it looks great on you, if I do say so myself.
And people know me by now. You know, when I walk down the streets of Chicago, it's like, oh, there's Yoshi. And so, yeah.
Pat Taylor in the chat says you're just pumped for the new Mario movie, which is a good,
so true. Good reference. Great point, Pat. Hey, good to hear Pat's voice and all the lovely mobster voices that we've missed for just so many familiar names and faces. So it just melts my heart.
Wow, I see the Field of 68 turned on subscribers only mode. Wow.
Guess you got to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want your comments to be seen.
It's really tough. Just kind of hit that.
I think I'm subscribed, so I should be okay. We'll see. All right, let's get started. We got a big show today. Like I said, we're going to start off from the high level view, the 40,000 foot
macro
view, national title, Final Four. We'll talk natty title first. Now, I'm not going to read down the entire list of odds here from BetRivers. That would be silly. That'd be silly. We'd be here all day. Okay. But the favorites, just so you out there know, Gonzaga and North Carolina, usual suspects here. Pretty much every book around the great United States, but we are a BetRivers show. We will talk about BetRivers odds only. 9-1 is the current favorites right now, UNC Gonzaga. You got Kentucky, Houston, Kansas, and Arkansas there at various prices. But I want to start off with, Jim, what are you targeting? What do you like from a value perspective as of today, looking at national title odds?
Yeah, as of today's tough, Kai. I'm usually let me jump in the day after the previous national title game. So I usually the Tuesday after the Monday, I've got bets in just like crazy, speculative, dealing with transfer portal. But Matt, I think the one number on the board that still intrigues me is a team we all agree is top 3, and that would be the Baylor Bears, arguably the best backcourt in the country. 16-1. I still think there's value there. They're basically being looked at as like the 8th best team. And like I said, we think they're better than that. Just loaded with guards. Guards win in March. I think they have a chance to win the Big 12, be a 1 seed, and be healthier than they were this year when they fell out of the tournament in the second round and they had like 7 guys left. So Matt, Baylor would be my first jump off the board pick.
Love Baylor. I'll stay in the Lone Star State for one. I like Texas. We're all reacting to these super secret but not so secret scrimmages. Pretty jaw-dropping score that we saw. I think they were up 30 against Arkansas. Now I know there's a ton of caveats and who's playing how much, and I think Arkansas was like 0 of 30 from 3 and Texas was like 30 of 30 from 3. But it's still, I think this is a team that has a great making of a national title contender. We've seen Bear get to the title game before. I think there's some undervalued or just baked in the fact that last year they struggled a lot early and just there's that sour taste in people's mouths. So Texas at 20-1. Kai, can I throw you Tennessee 20-1 after they just, basically annihilated Gonzaga?
Here's the overreaction.
Yes. No, absolutely. And I am overreacting about this scrimmage. I try not to, but that game was on television and for the most part, Gonzaga played their guys, right? And Tennessee looked awesome. They were without JJJ, one of their best players, Josiah Jordan James. He was out of the game. And they looked deep. They looked athletic. They looked scary. They have shooting. A lot to like about Tennessee this season. I mean, KenPom, if you're a KenPom guy, he's got him 4th overall in his preseason site ratings, and they're priced at 20-1 right now. Basically 10th shortest odds right now, tied with Texas. So I would call that value, Jim. I also like your Baylor pick. What?
But Rick Barnes in the tournament, Kai.
Yeah, that's a good point. Rick Barnes hasn't made the Sweet 16 in quite a long time. I don't have the stats in front of me.
What you should bet, and we'll get there. I like Tennessee in the SEC. That's where I
There you
think
go.
the Vols got great value. We'll get there. I don't want to jump ahead too far.
We'll get there. As for me, I still like Houston at 11-1, fourth shortest odds right now. And like if you're Jim thinks Houston's the best team in the country. So why not? Why not take them as the fourth shortest odds? Long shots, guys. Any long shots you want to throw in? I'll throw in San Diego State. We've been kind of talking about them all off season. 70-1. Will they win the title? No, probably not. And I think it's kind of a waste of time to bet too many long shots in this, but hedging opportunities, you never know, Jim. San Diego State might be a top 3 seed, sets up nicely to at least get to the Final Four. So if you're looking for a long shot, I like the Aztecs.
Well, let me ask you this, Kai, and Pete mentioned it about Baylor. Would you rather just bet them 17-1 to make the Final Four? And
5-1, right? Or 3 at BetRivers, I think it's 350, but yes.
San Diego State? No, they're 17-1.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Baylor. Excuse me. No, yes. Yes, I do have them listed on my Final Four as well, Jim. So
and I think there's kind of like almost a line of demarcation where down past like the ultimate favorites like Baylor, I would prefer taking the Final Four odds. Yeah. So it's somebody like, there's a couple other names we'll get to. Maybe I won't step on the toes of that, but to Pete's point, I still probably lean towards the title odds for somebody like Baylor, maybe even Houston too, the favorite teams. But as you get further down, I want the Final Four ones because Kai, you can win multiple. You can win like 3 different Final Four bets, whereas title
all 4.
You win one. Well, let's not get greedy.
Yeah, I mean, overall, national title winners, right? It's probably going to be one of these top 10 teams. That's just how it works. But Final Four, we've seen tons of party crashers in the past. And let's talk about Final Four, Matt. What do you think? What are the value plays here? So some of these are pretty short. Plus 125 for Gonzaga to make the Final Four.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't bet that, to be honest. Do I expect them to get there? Absolutely. But with the nature of the tournament, how random it can be, kind of a scary proposition to lay those short odds.
Yeah, I stayed away from these mostly, I'll be honest. But Alabama's a team I did write down. I know we've been high on them, or at least torn on them, but wanting to be high on them. They've had some early injuries in the offseason. They had the really dicey scrimmage against TCU where they had the players only meeting. And then now they looked really good in their most recent scrimmage. Again, we're overreacting to basically fake basketball. I realize that, but it's the first evidence that we have of the real life figures coming before our eyes after looking at these teams on paper all offseason. I like the upside of this team. We've seen Bama basically play at a Final Four caliber under Nate Oates just 2 years ago when they got beat by UCLA and with that overtime thriller. Yeah, I like Bama, man. They're
5 of 25 free throws.
Yeah, let's make free throws this year, maybe in clutch situations, or actually make threes. They didn't make any threes at all last season. A lot of things pointing in Bama's favor. So kind of similar handicaps in the national title futures, but Bama's the one I'm probably looking at from a Final Four and a natty title, a little more on the longer shot end of the spectrum.
Yeah, you want like wide range of outcomes. You want a team with a high ceiling. Hey, it might be a terrible bet. They might not even make the tournament, but like you've got the real high upside with a lot of the infusion of newcomers. They've got the very clearly defined style. It sounds like Brandon Miller is absolutely for real as the freshman coming in, big time like lottery pick. A couple other Kai I wanted to mention. I think Dayton has a really high ceiling.
Yes. Yeah.
So 15-1 there, not a dream, and it's tough because the books open the national title market. They let you bet into it. They kind of get a feel for the teams.
Right.
And then they open the Final Four market. So the value is not as strong. There's a lot of title bets I have that I wish were Final Four instead, but the markets weren't open, unfortunately. But Dayton is a team I looked at. San Diego State, as you mentioned, TCU 15-1. I'm kind of buying them more than maybe, or at least buying a ceiling more than others are. Yeah. Given their defensive identity, I call them like a little bit of a Houston light. I think I've said that about UConn too, but it's a very clearly defined style that works. And they have an awesome guard, one of the best, maybe 3 to 5 guards in the country in Mike Miles. So like TCU and then Kai Florida. We've been
like 4-2.
Yeah. As a group high in the Gators all off season, going to be a great defensive squad with Castleton anchoring the paint. And then maybe Kyle Lofton gives them that shot creation boost they need. They just got to make threes. That's the concern.
Yeah, and we do like guards, right? Guards win in March. That's a big theme for us. They have good guard. Xavier 25-1, guys, for the Final Four is a longer shot. I'm looking at SLU.
But Kai, they had no players looked good in their scrimmage.
Right, that's what I'm choosing. I'm choosing to ignore that one.
Yeah.
SLU 50-1. If you look at their line compared to Dayton, and you look at the A10 lines, there's a bit of a separation there, I think, and maybe not rightly so because SLU's talent is ridiculous this season. Chris Bray in the chat, it's a good point. He's saying, why bet it now? Why not wait basically for some of these teams to lose early? And Dayton, for instance, Malachi Smith, he's hurt. What if Dayton drops a couple early? Their Final Four odds they're skyrocketing. They're not going to be 15 to 1. They'll be 30 to 1 or something like that. Sure. You could probably try to time it like that. Just maybe a little bit more difficult. Maybe look at early season schedules, Jim.
Yeah. Their early season stuff is huge. Like a team like Duke, Dariq Whitehead's not going to be in there.
Champions
Maybe they
classic
take a couple
teams.
L's.
Right.
Arkansas is another team that always seems to take a while to come together. December has been sketchy for them, and they have the most turnover that Eric Musselman's ever had. So that's a team that I would never recommend betting now, even if you love them, if you think they're like the best team. I think just let it play out and maybe you'll get a little bit better value. Some of these other ones like Gonzaga, Houston, if they win in the non-conference early, you're never getting a better price than right now. Like Gonzaga, I think when they entered the tournament 2 years ago, they were like plus 150 to win the title. It was insane. So you try to gauge the right time to enter the market.
Pete in the chat, UAB 65 to 1. Yeah.
I was just going to toss that out there. My guy, Pete, hot to start the year. I agree. 25 to 1 is just
65
for a team that I think, sorry, I'm looking at, what am I looking at here?
I'm
Either way,
sure
they're in the flyer category. I would go Final Four. I wouldn't go title with them. 250 to 1 to win title. But that's a team that can make a big run. That team is stupid talented this season.
Co-signed. All right. Good talk, guys. Let's go player awards real quick. Wooden Award futures is what we're discussing. The favorite should come as no surprise is the guy that won it last year, Oscar Tshiebwe. I don't remember the last time a National Player of the Year has come back to college. Someone have that stat handy to me for me. Let me know. Because it hasn't happened in a long, long time. Those guys usually go to the NBA, obviously. But with NIL, with the big man, the year of the big, buy the almanac. Buy the almanac.
There you go. Good plug.
Great resource.
Good plug. Always
all this betting. He's plus 550. He's the favorite right now. Drew Timme is plus 600. Then you have Baycott and a bit of a drop off after that. Baycott's 8 to 1. Sasser, Marcus Sasser for Houston. Pat Taylor in the chat says he's winning it. He's at 14 to 1. Caleb Love, Hunter Dickinson, etc. Matt, who are you targeting, man? Who you got?
Again, I don't like this market. I think Timme feels like the smart play just because I worry about like little Oscar fatigue, and Oscar doesn't have like this wow you type of game. I think he just won sort of by default last year. And I think there's going to be an appetite to go in a different direction. Timme's been in college for 3 years. Gonzaga's probably really good again. I just feel like there's going to be this.
Is there Timme fatigue?
There could be Timme fatigue.
Hasn't won it yet though.
But not for voters, but just like, okay, that guy goes to the tournament and loses before the 1 seed. Maybe. Like, I don't know if that's going to catch up to him.
I think the counter force is that he is maybe the more clear centric epicenter of that team and could actually put up more dominant stats this year. I think there's fan fatigue of Timme, but not voter fatigue because he actually won the. Also, 3 straight years of big man winning the Wooden Award. So don't be afraid to throw a little flyer maybe on those Big Ten bigs too, Jim. I think Edey was sitting at 40 to 1, and TJD and Hunter Dickinson, I think, are priced similarly. I don't really have a hot take on who has better value there, but maybe one of those guys out of the Big Ten in the year of the big, as coined by the All Caps Almanac.
Yeah, TJD and Edey were 2 guys I wrote down as potential value. I believe it's like, I looked at this like 2 weeks ago, and I don't have the stat off my head again, but it's 13 of the last 15 or 18 of the last 20 have been on like a 1, 2, or 3 seed, the winner of the Wooden Award. Yeah. So your team needs to rock. Like, it can't be, hey, this guy's going to put up huge stats for a okay team.
Max A.
Not going to happen. Yeah,
cross him off the list.
Imani Bates, just not going to happen.
Imani Bates, hard cross off. That can be the first name you eliminate. Sorry.
So, I mean, maybe if you identify a team that's really undervalued too, and you want to kind of ride the player, like TCU, Mike Miles, 60 to 1, if you think they vault up into a 2 seed discussion and he's the best guard on that team, maybe they're there. But I haven't bet on this market yet, but it probably would be Sasser. So I'm with Pat there. 14 to 1 for what I think is the best guard in the country on the best team in the country. I like that guy.
It's probably the best bet. I think Timmy's going to win it. So 6 to 1. I mean, probably not going to get any better than that, unless he obviously gets hurt and goes out of the year. But I agree with what Matt said about the Big Ten bigs. How about a little freshman flyer, guys? How about Nick Smith?
Yeah,
25 to 1. Good. Arkansas potentially could be a top 5 team. He looked pretty darn good in the highlights I saw from his exhibition game. And then also, Matt, your dude, well, Jim's dude too, till recently, I think, Kendrick Davis, 50 to 1.
Yeah, King Kendrick.
Could be the best guard in the country. I don't think he is, but he could be. Memphis, TBD on how good they actually
National Spotlight Memphis. Yeah, I think that's actually pretty good value play.
Yeah, National Spotlight. They will get discussed, and that's important. Penny draws headlines. Kai, other freshman, Whitmore's way down there, but he's hurt to start the year, which is a bummer.
Tough.
Sad to see that.
Tough indeed. Let's see here. Pat Taylor, 28 to 1. Imani Bates. Yeah, probably won't bet on him.
Yeah. If there was a no side of that, I would say bet that.
Yeah, it's
all right.
visual fun.
Moving on, let's get into conference odds. We're starting with the ACC. I got to get my favorites up here lined up. Oh, favorites UNC guys, of course. Plus 150, Duke plus 250, and then it's a big drop off, guys. It goes to Virginia at 7-1. Jim, who are you targeting the ACC from the value perspective, from overall perspective?
I think the value is probably Virginia. They're top 5 in Ken Palm, if that's something that matters to you. We talked about it with Tennessee and Texas, how high they were for national title. Virginia is way up there. They are a consistent metronomic regular season team. Like that, you know what they're getting every single night. They're not going to have kind of the erratic performances you get from a Duke, Matt. When they're young, they go on the road in the ACC. Sometimes there are tough schedule spots for them. Even under Coach K, they lost. Always like a shaky road game, and they were not a good regular season team. They didn't win the title under Coach K. Virginia constantly won it. So if you don't think UNC is going to just walk to it, which is kind of what plus 150 almost indicates, I would eye up Virginia there, Matt. Do you see any other value on the board?
I had 2 right now. I think Virginia is a great call though, because even what was the year they weren't that great? Was it 2020? They were still 15-5, right? Like, so they do have that. I like that metronomic type of style that does play well in a regular season format. I had Florida State 20-ish to 1 and Clemson 40-ish to 1. Clemson's maybe a team you can wait on because they have some early injuries. Florida State in the same boat, but I think Florida State's a team that people are sleeping on. They're starting to kind of climb up there in some of the analytic rankings. And Clemson, Brad Brownell is just, death taxes and a good Clemson team. I just think this team actually has a little bit of upside. The healthy PJ Hall and Hunter Tyson. You guys are.
You see them
really
winning it though.
Drinking that
The
Kool-Aid.
ACC, really.
The ACC is really whatever this year to me. Virginia Tech, Virginia, sure. I'm a little cooler on Miami and Notre Dame. Even Syracuse, 50 to 1. What are they at? 40 to 1. That's not a terrible bet in my opinion either. I think you can look at the Flyers in this conference.
Syracuse 25 to 1.
Dig deep.
At BetRivers.
I look to fade the UNCs and Dukes, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I don't think anyone outside the top 3 is winning it. That's kind of I think this is not the Flyer conference. We'll get to a couple that I think are, but
I think Virginia is the best bet at 7 to 1. They've won it 3 times last 5 years. They're going to be at the top of the standings in some order with their style. And there's enough questions about Duke, Matt. I agree. I'm not taking Duke here. Florida State, I agree.
Don't bet Louisville.
No, do not bet Louisville. We'll get to that later on in a section here. And I don't think the long shots are worth it. I don't think a long shot wins the ACC. It just isn't going to happen. Moving on. Big East. Likewise, in this conference, I wouldn't take the favorite. I wouldn't take the second favorite.
Yeah, I'm throwing darts in this conference.
Yes, Creighton 2 to 1. They're the favorites right now. Villanova 3 to 1. I'm looking at Jim. Drumroll. Xavier. Xavier. Okay. Tell us why.
No, you tell me why. You're looking at it.
5 to 1. I think it's pretty wide open, like you were kind of hinting at with the little dart there. I think a lot of different teams can win this league, even lower down the line here. And given a wide open market, given a coach I like in Sean Miller, who I think really is going to lift the program, scrimmage results aside, I think they might be worth a 5 to 1 play.
Yeah, one of the I think DraftKings or a couple books opened some crazy odds on the non-favorites, like Providence 80 to 1, Butler 100 to 1, and those were worth dart throws to me. I mean, Villanova has some clear issues. New coach, Justin Moore potentially out the entire season. Whitmore, we don't know when he'll be back, if they take time to get continuity going there. So I would not bet Villanova at just 3 to 1. Creighton feels like what everybody has decided is the default answer. But if you care about computer rankings, this is barely a top 25 team. So maybe they're not as good as everyone's kind of human prognosis is giving them, which is why, like you said, Kai, I want to move down the board here, look for somebody with kind of a wide range of outcomes like Butler, like Providence, and take a shot at them, because I don't feel great about the favorites in the Big East, Matt. So I think this is where you can kind of look for shots.
Yeah, there's a few leagues I'm trying to kind of come with a paired approach, like bet a flyer, then pair it with a favorite that I feel somewhat safe about. I'm doing that with Butler and Creighton. Butler 30 to 40 to 1. I think closer to 20 to 1 if you're in the Illinois only turf. Unfortunately, DePaul is in our backyard, so such is the case. And then I'm gonna bet Creighton 2 or 3 to 1. I think the more I've talked myself into them as a pretty high floor team, and I'm sort of seeing some scars emerge with Villanova. They're pretty obvious, and even UConn. I look more at their roster. I feel like they have some point guard issues. Xavier, they had some scrimmage struggles. So I'm kind of like going down this and like, man, not a lot of teams are really sticking out, where Creighton just feels safe-ish to me. So that's my Creighton Butler portfolio.
The defense is really safe. Like
really
Paul
safe,
Kreiner is going to be awesome.
I agree. Also, yes, I agree with the chat. 33-1 on Providence is kind of wild how they're priced. I don't think they're going to win it this year. I do think they're a little bit down, we'll say. But given they won it last year, given everyone else in that league has their price,
Hawkins could be a star. So
yeah,
great home court advantage they have, even though it's the amp, it's not the dunk anymore, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's stupid. We're not going to call it the amp. Moving on, Big Ten, another wide open league, in my opinion. Now, Matt, I think the team to bet in this league is Illinois, but since we're all three located in Illinois, we don't have those odds. I think they're around plus 500 in any other market at BetRivers, somewhere around there. I think it's wide open. I don't trust Indiana, who is currently the favorite at BetRivers at 4-1. I'm looking more at a Michigan at 5-1. I'm looking at Purdue at 8-1, a team that I think has been consistently up towards the top of the standings, especially under Matt Painter.
I like all those, Kai. You could talk yourself into a lot of these Big Ten. I went Maryland. I went kind of flyer here, 30-1. Their schedule is very favorable. I know Jim has some good schedule points on Illinois, but I love Maryland because I think people are sleeping on Kevin Willard as sort of this kind of new grungy version of Maryland. But I think it's going to be a good team. The roster is pretty solid. They've already looked pretty good in some of their offseason stuff. Favorable schedule. I think they get Illinois at home early when I think Illinois will still be ramping up and finding themselves. Illinois will be better late than early in the year. So Maryland gets that good spot to get Illinois. They also get Indiana only once at home. They get the bad schools twice. I think the Terps are a good value playing what could be a pretty wild and kind of parity-ridden Big Ten this season.
I'm with Kai. I think it's Illinois. Their schedule is much softer than a lot of the top teams. I would go after them. I think they get Penn State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern all twice. That's 8 of their 20 Big Ten games.
Yeah, that's huge.
And I think a couple of the other contenders are not as frequently on their schedule, one time each. The big thing here for me is there's like this general feeling that Indiana's the clear favorite. They're 4-1. Like that's telling you there's like a 20% chance they win the league. This isn't like Kentucky plus 150 or UNC plus 150. I don't think Indiana is anywhere near that obvious of a favorite. If you do, 4-1's a great price, but I'm with you. Illinois, I think, has the best schedule plus potential here.
I don't love Maryland, Matt. I guess I like the price value. Sure, maybe
it's a price play.
Kevin Willard is Mark Turgeon to me. They're the same,
and that's good enough with this roster to maybe sneak above the sort of downy soft upper end of the conference, which has question marks. My Hoosiers question marks. Illinois question marks.
Would love to hear our producer Dagan's thoughts on Kevin Willard. He's a Seton Hall alum. Dagan. Moving on. Next conference here, Big 12. The usual suspects, Kansas and Baylor. They're at the forefront right now. Kansas plus 225, Baylor plus 250. Guys, one of these two teams is winning the league because they've done it for 20 straight years.
Kansas State won it one year, right? They snuck up there.
Yeah,
like Barry Brown and Dean Wade.
They tied Kansas. Yeah. I think it's one of those two teams. And Matt, you said you love Texas this year. Maybe you're looking at a little Texas two-step.
Of course.
Yep.
Value-wise? Yes?
No, I'm looking exactly at Texas two-step in the form of one of my two-part portfolios, Texas 3-1, Baylor 2.5-1. I think it's a better than 50% chance that one of those two teams. I'm kind of selling KU this year. I think they really struggle with a lot of the young guys. I know it's KU. I know it's
last words,
I know it's awesome.
I've seen that sentiment a lot.
Yeah, but I haven't seen this type of Kansas uncertainty with this type of Baylor team, which I know will be awesome, especially once they're fully healthy and the guards are up and running, and then this Texas version as well. So I'm playing both those for kind of a small profit return upside.
I only bet Baylor. Plus 250. I'm not selling Kansas as a bad team, but I think Baylor's just like demonstrably better, more ready to play together at the beginning of the year. Awesome backcourt. Maybe they don't have quite the home court advantage that Kansas does, which is important in this league. But true round robin, so no schedule advantages for any team. I like that. That makes it simpler, easier to bet those odds. So I like Baylor. Kai already bet plus 250.
Yep, I like Baylor as well. Texas Tech 7-1 has my attention, but again, I think it's Kansas or Baylor. Matt shaking his head. He's down on Texas Tech this year.
I'm out on Tech this year, which is dumb because Mark Adams is a really nice basketball coach. So
also the Red Raider fans will rip you limb from Yoshi limb if you.
This show needs a Texas Tech pinata, and I can be that in the form of Yoshi. You can stuff me with all types of Red Raider paraphernalia inside.
As the producer Dagan says in the chat, and Rob, our boss, Baylor's not plus 500 in the Big 12. They're plus 250. So just a note on that, guys.
I'd have several wagers on 5-1 if that existed.
All right, moving on. Pac-12, everyone's favorite league. Ha ha ha. That's a joke, Jim. They're not everyone's favorite league. The Conference of Champions is the conference of meh lately.
They're Bill Walton's favorite league, Kai.
Yes.
They're Bill Walton.
Yes, they are. UCLA is the favorite. Plus 185. Arizona at plus 220. And then you got Oregon at plus 425. Then it's a big drop off, and probably rightfully so. Jim, any of the top dogs stand out to you? Do you like anyone lower down the list?
No bets for me.
These odds are too good. They're perfect. I think UCLA should be the slight favorite. I think Arizona should be right behind them, and then Oregon, and that's exactly how it's priced. The one thing I thought was odd, Matt, it maybe is worth discussing. Utah, the 5th best odds in this league. Is that the book telling us that they think Utah could be the 5th best team, or that they have a high ceiling, or some better out there believes that? How do you feel about the Utes?
I love the Utes. I don't love them as the 5th best team in the Pac-12. Like I mean, I loved them last year as probably irrationally show for a fairly shoddy roster. And this year, it's not like there's definitely question marks this year again. So yeah, Utah at 5th. No, this is the only league I wrote down. Absolutely no bet for me. Stay away. Move on. Kai.
I think Oregon's probably your best value.
I said Oregon 5-1, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
I do think
I
UCLA.
heard they looked good in a scrimmage or an exhibition, and so people.
And those matter. They do matter.
When you want them to.
The long shots, guys, we've discussed this on other platforms, but there's not a good marriage of talent plus coaching. You either have talent or you have coaching, and you don't have both.
Kai, if you had to take one mid-level roster with one mid-level coach to win the league, who would you do? Like, I would take Arizona State's roster with Craig Smith.
Okay. Yes. That'd be a sure bet at plus 2,000, 20 to 1 right now. You can get Arizona State. But Bobby Hurley coaches that team. So staying away from there. So we're not too confident on the Pac-12 on their conference odds. We'll see if we are on the SEC though. Kentucky is the favorite, plus 150. Arkansas is at plus 250. Tennessee at plus 350. And then a catastrophic drop off after that. Catastrophic is probably not the correct word there, Jim, but I said it anyways.
I think we know what you mean. We're
quantum drop off.
As we hinted in the beginning of the show, Jim, Tennessee plus 350. Again, don't overreact to the preseason. They look good to me. I like them.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee I think they were plus 450 before that showing against Gonzaga on pay-per-view Friday night. I think I like them even without seeing that as the odds. Right. You look at every computer ranking, they're equal to Kentucky, definitely ahead of Arkansas, who, like I said, has got the young parts to figure out. They always go on a tear in like late January, February, but maybe they'll have a couple of losses before that happens. Tennessee's schedule isn't too bad. You get Vandy, South Carolina twice, Alabama, Arkansas, A&M only once. Kind of like that. Sets up decently well for the Vols. And yeah, they're experienced, good backcourt, a lot of size. It seems like they have depth because the bench guys played really well without JJJ in that game. So Matt, yeah, I think the Vols are the bet here.
I wrote down Vols as well. I also put down Florida and Vandy. However, I concede I did not go through a robust schedule analysis. I think Jim brought up that point.
Do you need one for Vandy?
Well, for Vandy, it's just like a complete Hail Mary. They look pretty awesome. At 100 to 1, why not? Worth a $5.
Here's why not, because they won't win it.
They won't win it. Okay, I can't rebut that. In general, though, I think the schedule things here, there's a lot of good teams in this conference. So I think you really need to find like a good schedule edge, timing wise, the imbalance dynamic to it. Other than that, there's no team that has like a bad price or a overvalued price, in my opinion. Maybe Tennessee, but maybe Florida, but not many.
I think Kentucky's overvalued if Severe Wheeler's out for the year, which we don't know. We don't know. That's purely speculative, but he left the game last night, not putting weight on his leg. I heard it was a awkward looking buckle.
Yeah, not good.
And so then, yeah, like that opens things up and makes this conference a little more bettable if you think Wheeler out really takes away the value of Kentucky.
Yep. I don't mind Auburn at 10 to 1. Pearl's won it before. I trust them. Athletic team, high upside. And then Florida 33 to 1. I think it's the best bet on the board. It just doesn't match where I perceive them to be compared to where they're priced. Texas A&M at 16 to 1. Come on. Florida's twice the odds. I don't see it.
But Kai, they went on a run in the tournament.
Yeah. Matt shakes his head at Auburn. So Matt's down on Texas Tech and Auburn, two teams that are good basically every single season. So we'll see how this pans out for Mr. Matthew Cox. Fading two really good coaches here. I'm going to keep tabs on this. I could end up with egg on my face for sure. It could reverse on me. but I'm going to keep tabs.
I
I'm
could
going
have
to
egg
write
on
that
my
down.
nostrils right here. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
4 sets of nostrils, 2 sets of nostrils. All right. Mid-major value picks, guys. This is kind of a free-for-all here. There obviously are 26 other leagues plus independents. There's no lines for those out there on BetRivers that you can bet into for conference odds. These are often pretty soft lines you can find on several different teams and leagues because
soft.
they open very soft. They're getting a little bit stronger now. Odds makers just don't really pay attention to how to price these or care that much. So, Jim, where do you want to start, man? The board is yours. The Jeopardy board is yours. Where do you want to go with?
All right. Well, my favorite bets in this part of the board are always like underpriced favorites, like the team that I think is the best team in the league getting decent value. Iona, Norfolk State have both been kind of hammered, and those were ones that I also helped hammer. I think those were great values. Maybe not as good anymore, but still probably worth a look. San Diego State.
What price did you get Iona, Jim? Sorry,
I got them at even money.
Okay. I take them up to like minus 200. I really feel that confident Iona this year. The MAC is just bad. Not even like the potential contenders really scare me to like actually beat Iona for the whole course of the season.
Yeah, Manhattan just dropped off, became like a non-threat completely. My favorite one at this stage right now is looking at the America East and doing a little bend between two books here. I mentioned this to you guys this morning. The split on the price between Vermont and Bryant is really different between BetRivers and another book I won't name, but you should look for it. At that book, Vermont is plus 140. At BetRivers, they are minus 400. That is a seismic gap. And so I think either Vermont or Bryant wins it. You can bet them both, one at plus 140, one at plus 400. Set up your split however you want between the two teams, and I think that's going to pay out. I don't think UMass Lowell is beating John Becker or that Bryant roster.
No, I agree with that, Jim. Matt, where do you want to go? What do you like?
I had Iona, and then I did like a little Ryder Hail Mary as sort of a kind of a slight hedge to that at 12-1. I think Ryder's pretty talented this year, and they're getting slept on because they've had kind of disappointing last few seasons.
No one's beating Iona, though.
But no one's beat right. So I think the best bet is Iona still. I think I got that minus 150. So props to Jim for being the sharper better and also sucking up my value, you rat. Let's go to the SWAC, Kai, real quick.
Yeah.
I know it feels foolish to bet the favorite or one of the favorites in what's typically a topsy-turvy league, but I do think Southern is a notch above the rest of the conference. And it's basically priced, or they're appraised as such in KenPom. I think all the SWAC teams are 300 and below. Southern's in like that mid 250s range. That's kind of how I see it too. They're so deep. They're immune to injuries throughout the way. As you see these SWAC teams pile up injuries and roster carnage. And then Bethune-Cookman, 12-1, hyper talented. They got the Harmon kid top 100 along with a lot of other guys back. I think Reggie Theus is an underrated basketball coach. So that's my SWAC twofer.
Yeah, SWAC feels a little bit more open this year. I like Texas Southern plus 650 in the SWAC. They're always good in that league, and they're second best team per KenPom. So and they're not priced that way. Yep. So value play, I like them.
Southern 4-1, BCU 12-1, just to confirm. Yeah.
Bart Torvik for SWAC, Southern 181st, second best team, Texas Southern 266th. So like,
so even bigger.
If you view that gap, then that's something worth looking at. Kai, the other one I liked was OVC.
Yeah, me too.
Plus 650 or 700. I just think coming in, they got destroyed by injuries last year, and that has really cut into their value this year in the preseason. But I think they're fairly well coached with Darrell Walker, and they've got some versatile parts, some down transfers. They're going to have depth because they had to play every bench guy last year. Right. And that league's just bad. That league's just not very good. So
the league's bad, but Moorhead, in my opinion, is the best team by far in that league, and they're 3-1.
Wow, by far, really? I like Moorhead too. I didn't realize you liked them.
I don't think it's close.
I think it's close.
They might have the best coach.
I think
in
the mush is actually okay. It's not as awful as people think. Your SEMOs,
the mush is bad.
Southern Indiana, the Martins, they're not that terrible.
They're not that terrible, but they've never won.
SIUE's not terrible.
They're not winning programs. Moorhead has been, and they have a lot of talent despite losing Broom. Yeah, in my opinion.
Has Spradlin won without Broom? We'll see.
No, he hasn't been there without
that's
Broom.
my concern with Moorhead. They weren't good his first few years, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. At plus 300, I think you could do worse out there. In the Summit League, guys, I think South Dakota State should be the favorite. So you're getting plus 225. Oral Roberts can have a great year, but that's valuable to me. And then the A10, a little bit higher league, VCU at plus 750.
The Rams.
Yep. Ooh, that's pretty high compared to Dayton at 2-1 and SLU at 4-1. I would say VCU is pretty cheap. I see VCU pretty close to both those teams. So plus 750, that's a value play for me.
Yeah.
Hey, how about a quick request from the chat? Ed Redmond asking about Toledo. I'm just chuckling and laughing at myself last year. And the year before that, fading Toledo.
I got a small take on that, Matthew.
Toledo Faders Anonymous continues to live on.
So Toledo's
Kent State guy? You Kent State guy here? Gold Flashies.
So I think Toledo is the best team in the MAC, but plus 550 is Kent State versus plus 200 in Toledo. Kent State was picked first in the media poll in the MAC. So I think if you're looking for a good value play, probably Kent State. Now, I'm never fading Toledo ever again after the last couple of years of them damaging our wallets. But I think Kent State's probably the best, my favorite play in the MAC.
Kai, even better, I think that was the coaches poll, which
it was a coaches poll.
I hold that in a little higher regard than a media poll sometimes.
Yeah, media people are hacks.
Yeah. Although I don't give a whole lot of credit to coaches polls either. I don't think every coach knows what's going on in their leagues.
True. There's a lot of roster turnover. So
that's true. It's harder for them to know now.
Big West, why not? Pete says it. Matt, I know which team you like the best, just based on odds here, because you wrote. Well, you didn't write it, but you're the Big West guy.
We know what he's doing. Yeah,
that's it. Hawaii. Matthew, you have Hawaii.
Bows up
pretty close to second place. We'll say in the West. Everyone has Santa Barbara winning the Big West. Excuse me.
There are a lot. It's actually a decent league this year too. It's kind of
it's a good league.
It's a good league. So it should be pretty competitive, but I think Hawaii with that home court advantage, I know that works both ways, but 6-1 does matter. Yeah. I would take them 5-1 or better.
Yeah. Pete's razzing me for not mentioning Santa Barbara. It did get bet down. It was like plus 300 when it opened. It's now down to 190. So not as much value, but I think they're the clear best team. So I would prefer betting Santa Barbara to Matt's Hawaii boys, but we'll see.
Darts asks Pete. Well, in the Colonial, a league I think is pretty wide open. Charleston 10-1. Not necessarily 1,500 there, Pete, but 10-1. Charleston coach, who I think is fantastic, and Pat Kelsey, a lot of talent. Might be worth a little bit of a dart throw.
I got a couple, Kai.
Yeah.
Fairleigh Dickinson in the NEC, 55-1. New coach coming from D2, brings his backcourt with him. That league is really, really open. There's no clear favorite there. As good as Merrimack might look, they're not like some dominant force. So I think that's a good conference to take a shot in. And then the really deepest of deep shots would be Southern Miss at 150-1 in the Sun Belt. That's another league that I think has a ton of parity at the top. Southern Miss brings in two guys from Mercer that paired together were actually pretty solid when healthy in Alvarez and Felipe Hasse. So I tried to bet that, Kai, and I don't think it was allowed to put $7 on it at 200-1. But I still think 150-1, you can do worse with $10.
Yeah, I don't mind those long shots, Jim. Matt, anything to add with long shots?
No, I think that was about it.
You could get Western Kentucky at 14-1 about a week ago in the Conference USA, which was nuts. About that. Now they're 8-1. It's probably closer to where they should be. I still think there's a little value on them, but
they're like
it's North Texas or UAB's league, right?
Western Kentucky is I want to bet them in the tournament where it's 3 games, the talent plays up, but over an 18-20 game thing where coaching for Andy Kennedy and Grant McCaslin can run circles around stands.
Yes. All right. Well, let's get to the last section of our show here. Early season bet on and fade specials. I believe we each have a team written down here that we're looking to fade early and a team we're looking to bet on early. So BetRivers, close your ears. Odds makers, you can just go ahead and turn off the stream now. We'll start with Jim here. Let's start with fades. One on a positive note.
Fades. Okay.
Yes. And on a positive. So what team are you looking to fade this year early on?
Looking through some of the odds and where I have teams valued versus Bart Torvik and Ken Pom. Kai, this might hurt your ears, so you might want to cover. But I'm fading Clemson early because I don't think PJ Hall is going to be out there. And if he's not available early on, I think that team's in a little bit of trouble. Their guards are really young. They don't have a clear point guard on the roster. It's a lot of kind of shooting guards masquerading as creators. It's not the same disciplined defensive team that Brownell usually has. So I'm going to be fading Clemson early, Kai.
And Matthew?
Yeah, I was going back and forth between a few. Man, I just think this Louisville team is an auto fade, right? It's almost like it's so obvious that everyone knows about it, but man, it just seems like I think there is a parabolic curvature to their downward slope this year. So,
they're not at the bottom yet. And just some of the tweets about how the team looked effort wise in an exhibition is really concerning.
Well, yeah, Matt took my fade. It's Louisville, and it's obvious, right? Don't read too much in the scrimmages, but I mean, good God. they don't have any guards. I don't really care as much they lost a D2 team. Yeah, that's terrible. And the D2 team's bad, but teams have done that before in the preseason. Don't overreact. But we kind of thought they were going to be bad before that because they have one legitimate guard in their roster. It's just not a recipe for success. Kenny Payne, first year coaching, who knows? He might be in over his head. We'll see. We'll see how they do in the early on. I'll flip the order here. Matt, give me a bet on team early on in the season.
Jim, I'm going to you here. I'm deciding between two here. Sorry, we're going to you.
You had a lot of time to prep for the
fence,
show,
sir. How dare you?
All right, can I? I'm going to take Kai's. That's why I wanted to defer.
You're not. I promise you won't.
I'm going to VCU. I know that you're boys.
Yeah, you just took mine.
Are you serious? Good.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Yeah, the Rams. Just it's extrapolating how they're priced in the futures markets into how they'll probably be priced on a game by game basis. I just don't think there's much of a gap between them and the Billikens and even them in Dayton. And so I think that's a team that consistently overperforms expectations. It's Mike Rhodes' specialty. It's because you look at the roster, you don't really know many names until they kind of pop up in February. It's like, oh, this team's really good again. So it's rinse, wash, repeat. VCU is going to be good. It's better than people think.
I'll go with my second choice here, Kai. I can say Butler. I want to make sure Ali is back from his concussion / potential facial surgery. But they are remarkably undervalued in computer odds just because coaching change and they weren't very good last year. But I love the transfer haul they brought in, and Thad Matta is brilliant. So Butler's the team I'm looking at.
Yeah, I hope they get healthy because that's obviously the only thing that's holding them back for me. Because I agree with you. Oklahoma State is going to be a team I'm looking to bet on.
I like this guy.
Yeah, maybe a little surprising, but they're motivated after last year. I mean, I don't know
they can
how
make the postseason now.
Yeah, obviously these are college athletes. They're very competitive. They're not just not motivated to win last season, but knowing you can make the tournament this season, there's a little bit something extra there. Solid transfer class, despite Russell Harrison not getting eligible.
Which was dumb.
And also sorry?
It was dumb. His appeal process was awfully stupid.
Yes, it was. And then super athletic. They should be a suffocating defense. They were top 5 last year in defense. I can see them being as dominant again. So I like betting on defensive teams. I think it carries. I think it goes a lot farther than people think in the market. That is it. That's our show. That's our future show, guys. We appreciate you tuning in. I'll tell you what the cadence is going to be for the Best Bet show coming up this season. We're teeing off next Monday, the first day of the year, at 12.
No, not as well.
Excuse me.
We're at 2 on the first day as part of the Field of 68's 4-hour marathon on opening day.
Okay.
So but yes,
the very first day
we'll be a part of that.
The very first day is at 2 Central, not Eastern, 2 Central.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's our normal noon Central cadence, most every day of the week. And we will tweet out the schedule and let you guys know. 3MW_CBB. Once again, thanks to BetRivers. Thanks to the Field of 68. We will see you guys next week. We are stoked. Let's go cash some futures bets.